So we're here today to talk about spinal decompression. And usually spinal decompression is something that people do for disc injuries, usually for the low back. Could be for a couple other areas of the spine. But let's just talk about a quick brief overview of what a lumbar or any other disc is in the spine and why decompression would be something that's prescribed. So a disc is a fibrocartilaginous lump that basically sits in between your vertebra and your spine. They're there to provide shock absorption, cushioning, and basically allow for you to be able to, go through movements in your spine and not have your bones just take all the impact. So they're very useful, but they can be very debilitating when injured, though they don't have to be. And they're basically, the best analogy that I like to use is a jelly-filled donut. The disc has a harder outer shell with a nucleus in the middle, and the nucleus is the jelly in the jelly donut. And that nucleus can actually get pushed around, and if the disc gets injured, the nucleus can actually start to go through little tears in the disc so that it actually will start to irritate the fibers of the nucleus, or will even go out the back of the disc and exit the disc itself. And then in that case, the disc can go into several different places, including the area where your nerves exit the spine, and that's where the term pinched nerve comes from. And so one of the causes of a pinched nerve can be disc material actually pinching on the nerve. There's a couple other causes of that, but that's a topic for another video. So spinal decompression is utilized for one of the ways that discs can be injured. Discs can be injured from compression, which is basically this or this up to down pressure on a disc. And they can also be injured with flexion, which is this movement. So this forward bending through the spine like this. So this movement is honestly one of the most common causes of disc injuries. And then rotation or twisting. So this twisting movement like this. So if you add those things together, the forward bending, rounding, or flexion, the rotation, and the compression, you have a disc's worst nightmare. And a lot of times people will actually throw out their back or hurt a disc by just reaching for something. And a lot of times disc injuries will happen over time. And the thing to realize about disc injuries is that they are a type of mechanical lower back pain, meaning that mechanics, load, forces, like the way that you do things in your life, how you lift things, how you sit, how you bend and twist and move throughout life. Those things are mechanical things, and that stuff impacts how you injure your discs. So disc pain is a mechanical source of back pain, and decompression is basically addressing the compression part or the up to down pressure on the spine. And if you pull it apart like this and take pressure off of it from the top to bottom or up to down compression force, that's what decompression is doing. So it's addressing one of those three things. There's a couple different decompression things that can address a little bit like one or the other causes. So it can maybe be like two of those movements in one. But decompression doesn't usually address all of those directions of injury. And it doesn't really do anything to actually prevent disc injuries in the future. It's more of like okay, this will get you out of pain. But if you've had a disc injury, you have a higher likelihood of having a disc injury in the future or having pain from the disc in the future. So the way to avoid that is to make sure that you have actually learned how to support the disc and how to load through your body in a way that's not going to continuously harm the disc. Because a lot of times people get this injury because they're lifting with their back, or they're bending with their back, or they're putting a lot of stress on the disc in their back from this rounded movement, as well as the compression and or the rotation. So if you're doing decompression, you're only going to address one of those things, and you're not going to be doing anything to fix the real cause of the problem, which is your own body mechanics and your own ability to manage loads in life, be it lifting a grocery bag or bending down to pick up your shoes. All of that is load management. And if you're doing that in a way that's constantly irritating the discs, decompression is going to help with the pain, but it's not going to help with that constant irritation. My other caveat about decompression is that it is also something that people have to get done to them. And in my experiences, patients usually don't like pain because A, it hurts and it's going to stop you from doing your normal life activities, and B, they don't feel like they have control over it. And going through a movement-based approach versus just having decompression done is going to give you a little bit more control over your pain. So there are movements that can actually do decompression. There's ways that you can learn how to, do a bunch of repeated movements over and over again, which are going to have a similar effect to actual like mechanical decompression, meaning like a machine-based decompression, which is what people get prescribed. And also there are different exercises that can teach you how to use your core and your hips and the rest of your body more correctly, so that as you're going through life, you don't constantly irritate the disc. So you can learn how to do decompression with movement that addresses, some maybe all of these different causes of the disc injury. And then also you're going to be able to strengthen it too. So if you take more of a movement-based approach, it gives you a little bit more prevention. It gives you a little bit more control over your pain because you're not just dependent on a machine to give you relief. You actually know what to do when you have pain. And it also gives you a sense of like gaining strength and kind of coming back from this injury stronger than you were before. And also I think the movement-based approach is very useful because it's usually a little bit cheaper and you don't have to go to a million sessions of decompression. So I think decompression definitely has its uses. And you know what? You can do that in conjunction with movement-based therapy. But for long-term disc outcomes, my experience has been that decompression is not as good for recovery, prevention, and for patients' mental and physical states. Like, you don't get the same amount of control over your symptoms that you would get if you were reliant on a machine to give you relief, versus being, in control of your own body and having an idea of how to get yourself out of pain. And if that makes sense, or if you have more questions, go ahead and leave a comment below. Send me your questions via email. My email's in the description, or subscribe to get more videos about disc pain. Thank you.